Hi, I'm Todd Pappy, Design Director here at CIG. Today I want to talk to you about Star Marine and kind of the iterations that it's gone through from ILFonic to even our current team. So what you've seen before with ILFonic, and then when it was handed over to our current team, there was a lot of adjustments, a lot of breakdown of basic fundamental features so that we can use those as building blocks when we go forward with our tech as well as with Persistent Universe. So when we started looking at Star Marine, it was always meant to basically be a precursor to the Persistent Universe and use this as a building block. Now, what we did was we kind of did a little bit backwards, where what you see in Alpha 2.0, 2.1, even through 2.5 is a very basic combat and navigation for Star Marine. So in 2.6, what we've done is we've built that up a lot more. We've added vault, mantle, cover, as well as grenades and melee, just to name a few features to actually build what our combat is going to be. And then from there, in the future, we'll be adding other new features like gadgets, as well as breathing stamina system. And this will give us a fully fleshed out combat first-person experience.
Animation-wise in Star Marine, there's a whole lot of things that go into it. You have your character animation, which would be, say, your body animation of your character running around. You have your facial animation, so perhaps the character breathes or makes some sort of expression when he shoots. You have procedural animation, so we're holding the weapon and we're firing, and that recoil that is happening is procedural. And then as the hands squeeze on the trigger and squeeze on the weapon, that's another character animation, but a partial body character animation that plays on top of that. The first step is that we sit down with the designers and sort of figure out what is the intent of this particular behavior or gameplay that we're doing, and we create a state machine for that, which tells us if we go from, say, an idle stance and we start to move, and then we need to jump, or we're going to vault or melee, how those things connect. Then once we understand how they connect, in the case of larger actions, say a stealth kill or running, we'll go and we'll shoot motion capture, and we'll grab the motion capture of those actors, we'll bring them into Motion Builder and into Maya, and we'll work on those animations to get them to be technically correct for the game. We'll play them then in the product and see how they feel, and we'll make adjustments within Maya or Motion Builder or something like this to try and really bear down on the quality that we're looking for the game. In the case of things like, say, reload animations, because it's important in the first-person view for us to see the weapon reloading, but we also have a tied first-person and third-person view, we can't really motion capture those reloads fully. We have to do a lot of hand animation on those to make sure that they look good in third person and in first person. So depending upon what the asset will give us a different track that we go on. Either we do it with mocap or we do it with keyframe.
So as a lead programmer, I manage a team, and our work is mainly player related. So for Star Marine, it's been a big advantage for us that we've been able to look at specifically the core FPS gameplay without this big PU backdrop. But with any features we do, we always want to think about how they go into the PU. We don't want to put a feature in just because it's easy to do it in Star Marine, and then 3 or 4 months later find out that that's 1 or 2 years worth of work to get it into PU. We want these pieces to fit into the final game.
Alpha 2.0 back at the end of last year. and we've slowly been iterating on the features for that. So we have two different throw modes with the grenades in Star Marine. You can do underhand rolls or overhand throws or lobs, and currently that's selectable depending on the view angle, whether you're looking above the center line of the screen or below the center line of the screen. And we can adjust that quite easily on dev side, but we're going to look to expose that to be a more user customizable preference. So currently it's set at a fraction of under the center of the screen to decide between if you're beneath that, then do a roll. If you're above that, do a throw. So we're going to see whether that's something we'll let users customize, because obviously not everyone wants to do it like that, or whether we can expose that out into two different throw modes. And it's one system, so it's not just grenades, it'll be for gadgets or any throwable object. You can also cook or prime grenades, so you just literally hold down the key to do that. Depending on how long you hold it for is how long it cooks for. Obviously let go before the timer runs out. You have some audio and UI feedback for that. Just remember that the grenades have quite a big radius on them, so if you hold it down for too long and then don't let go soon enough, you will get caught in the blast radius. We use DataForge to tweak all the parameters for grenades, so the throw speed, their mass, the angle you throw them at, the rotation that they throw. So we can have different rotational values for overhand and underhand throws. So underhand ones we want to roll more on one axis than the other, so they roll along the floor more. Overhands sort of go end over end, so they hit and bounce rather than hit the ground and just slide. Try something, doesn't work, go into DataForge, move a slider around, type a new value in, save that out, jump back in game, and you've got the new values there, so it's very quick to iterate. Star Marine is a sort of simulation of FPS combat inside the game. So it's like we have Arena Commander as a simulation of the dogfighting. Functionally it's the same between Arena Commander and Star Marine and the PU, so what you're learning in both of them is directly applicable to the PU, so it's not like we're giving you easy mode for how ships handle or how the weapons handle. It's the same, so you're not wasting your time doing one and then you suddenly get ruined going straight into the PU. It's good to learn. And Star Marine is obviously the FPS side of it, whereas Arena Commander is the ships.
If you look at Arena Commander, for example, the Arena Commander is an amazing tool for the ship team to balance how the ships work, how they feel, how they play against each other. With Crusader, having FPS in Crusader has been great for initial feedback, but it doesn't have the competitive edge, because you always start out in a green zone. You might have a lot of people that aren't interested in that aspect of the game. Whereas with Star Marine, you're not going to jump into a game if you don't want to run around and shoot at people. So it's going to be amazing to see what we can get out of that.
So now we're going to give you a little bit more of a deeper dive on how we go about building levels as well as game modes for Star Marine. With that, when Chris Roberts starts talking about FPS experiences and everything like that, he doesn't want it to be a kind of a traditional open FPS world.
At the moment, we started off by using it as just a large 3D space, like 6 degrees of freedom and just shooting. But that's not as interesting if there's nothing there, so we need to kind of build things around it. Multiplayer level design is an iterative process. You start with an idea, and that can come from either concept art or just the idea for a scenario, or potentially a top-down sketch. I prefer to work with rough 3D shapes, which I can then flesh out into the basics of a white box. So when the white box is play-tested, it requires a lot of iteration. It requires perfecting the sight lines, timing the choke points, and maintaining metrics. A white box's primary intention is to minimize rework later on, whilst getting the balance and fun in the game as soon as possible. Parallel to the initial playtests, art and narrative are also working. They're planning their treatment of the locations and spaces, and they are very much informed by the white box, but they do bring their own ideas from their own pool. There's a lot of back and forth with art when maintaining metrics. There's always the desire to make things look visually appealing, but we always need to make sure that the mechanics will still work well with that. So that's judging heights of crates and mantling points and distances between doorways. And and keeping routes clear. As testing progresses, Art are able to flesh out areas that have become a little more set in stone. And over time, the map changes from a textureless shell to a more believable and aesthetically pleasing location.
What we wanted to do for this release of Star Marine is focus on 2 maps. This is a mood board that we created for one of the maps. It gives Chris a good high-level overview of the visual stance that was going to do for the level. This is one of the visual feedback sheets that we do for the guys. So it's basically me screenshotting the level after it's been in production for a little while and kind of giving more specific feedback. Everything from base form reads of the level, how it's flowing, mood and character that we want to start adding into the scene. This is an example of one of the concept art pieces we've done for one of the maps. Once the designer white box has been verified and signed off, then we'll take it into concept to see where we want to visually push the scene. This is a good chance for us to explore where we want to take it, play with the moods, play with the lighting, play with the dressing, to see what will work before we take it into full production. Once we got something we're happy with, then the environment team will take it and try and recreate that as the best they can and treat that area as a visual target. And then once it's in production, we kind of see how well it's working and then expand those visual elements out across the rest of the environment. This is an early example of what I call a visual feedback sheet for the guys. So once the level's taken to about 80-90%, I'll give them a final paint to where we want to take the level. Just that last 10%, that last bit of polish, usually involves things like material read, lighting, VFX, just so we get that final view. What's quite interesting is usually when you make an FPS map, it's usually, traditionally, it's like a stripped down version of like the campaign level. So it's usually a little bit lighter, a little bit cheaper to run because you've got a lot of characters. But for us, what we wanted to do is almost the opposite. We wanted to make a hero location specifically for FPS, right? So hopefully what the players are going to see is a lot more considered time, a lot more considered visually, so they can get, I'm hoping, a good experience.
So we have 2 Marines and we have 2 Slavers, a medium and a light of each one. In fact, we're using the same assets that we're using in Squadron 42 and same ones that we're using in the Persistent universe. So the Marines that you are going to see here in Star Marine are actually the first time that you're going to see these Marines. And we're eventually going to be putting them into the Persistent universe as well. The things that we use mostly for the Marines are going to be more kind of industrial, heavier, bulkier suits, but also trying to tie that into a bit of a slicker, streamlined feel, so that they can feel powerful yet streamlined.
Making an FPS and indeed making Star Citizen is an enormous undertaking, and it doesn't all happen at once. So as you guys are out there playing Star Marine, we want to know your feedback, both the good and the bad, right? What do you like the recoil speeds? How do you feel about this melee? What do you use this cover system functionality? Do you not use this cover system functionality? Because this is a big community-backed product, and we can't do it without the community. And it's a partnership between the game we're making and the game that they're helping us create.